Hello, I'm Sky Matsuhashi, founder of SmartPokerStudy.com, the place for poker players who are always striving to be better today than they were yesterday. Poker people, make sure you download episode 45, where I discussed calculating the odds of hitting your outs on the turn or river with the 4-2 rule. Hey, poker people, it's another Q&A on this incredible day before spring break. Yep, my boys will have a full 10 days of vacation from elementary school. If I know anything about them at all, they'll spend the entire time watching Ethan Gamer TV, Dan TDM, playing Minecraft or Roblox or just goofing off on the computer, you know. I'll definitely try to keep them busy, though, doing other things like bike rides, goofing off at the park, hitting the trampoline place, and hanging out with their cousins as well. You know, we have a lot of family here in town. They can go hang out with them. That'll get them away from the computer for a little bit at least. And, of course, some spring cleaning is on the docket as well, and they will frickin' hate that. But we'll have some fun, and I hope you all out there have some fun things planned for your own spring break as well. Oh, and wish me luck. I bought some action in my buddy this weekend. He's playing a full slate of MTTs today, Saturday, and Sunday, and he kindly let me buy some of his action. One of the MTTs he's playing is the Sunday Million, 10-year anniversary with a guaranteed $1 million for top prize, or for first place, you know. So come on, Big D, take it down! Alrighty, and real quick, I'm going to do another little Breaking Bad report. This was about Season 2. I just finished it up. If you haven't watched it and you're planning on watching it, go and fast forward for about a minute 30 or so. We'll get to the pokers then. But real quick, just for Season 2, for those of you who've already watched it and want to live vicariously through my excitement in watching this, the season started off looking like a big drug thing went down at Walt's house. Little snippets of it were shown throughout the season with dudes in hazmat suits. It looks like they were cleaning up. Things were caught on fire, maybe some dead bodies and all that kind of stuff, you know. In the season, we meet Saul Goodman, played by Bob Odenkirk, an awesome character. He ends up being Walt's and Jesse's consigliere, you know, like to the Godfather. We meet Gus. He's the owner of Los Pollos Hermanos, a new big meth distributor across 5 states. Seems like a really smart businessman, but dealing in the drug trade, you know. Hank almost gets blown up and is suffering from, looks like PTSD, and it manifests itself like as anxiety, it looks like. And Jesse's girlfriend Jane blackmails Walt, then Walt lets her choke to death on her own throw-up, doesn't help her, doesn't turn her over on her side, you know. And now Jesse's all effed up in the head. He was falling in love with this girl, now she's dead. Her dad, played by John Delancey, which was Q for all of there out there, all you Star Trek heads out there, he played Q. He is super shaken up and depressed, of course, after Jane's death. Comes back to work a few weeks later. He is an air traffic controller. He causes 2 airplanes to crash over Walt's home and neighborhood and everything. And then that's where all the debris and bodies came from. It wasn't a big drug explosion, not a big, battle between cartels or anything. It was just the bodies from that explosion. So just terrible situation there. And Skyler wants Walt to leave, so they're actually separating now. And it was killer stuff. I cannot wait to watch Season 3. If you aren't in Breaking Bad yet, get out there, buy the DVDs, rent them, borrow them from your library, whatever you got to do to get this series. You will love it. Alrighty, we've got 5 questions today, which we'll go ahead and hit right now. And make sure you sign up for an America's Card Room account through me for 27% rakeback and get your 100% deposit bonus of up to $1,000 as well. As soon as we get 10 people signed up under me, we can hold weekly free rolls for SmartPokerStudy.com podcast listeners only. So what you waiting for? Just head over to the show notes and click the banner near the top of the page, or just type in www.smartpokerstudy.com/ACR to be taken to my affiliate page. Alrighty, this first question comes from Lisa.
My show, the entire audience is so captivated. And now you see, the new world is inevitable.
It's what?
Inevitable.
One more time?
Inevitable! Things are inevitably going to change. God damn it, open your fucking ears.
Oh, Kim Jong-il, everyone's favorite dictator. Besides Sacha Baron Cohen's dictator, of course. And so that clip right there was from another of my favorite movies called Team America from Matt Stone and Trey Parker. You know, they're the guys behind South Park, also The Book of Mormon, and they starred in last week's Basketball that I talked about. So do yourselves another favor and rent Team America on Amazon today. Okay, question number 2, and it comes from Kong. Hello, Sky. My name is Kong Lee. Talk about a unique first name growing up. Anyway, I found your podcast very informative, and please keep up the good work. It was through your podcast that convinced me that I need a software like Poker Tracker 4 to improve my game, find leaks, and profitable spots. So I used your affiliate link to purchase a copy of Poker Tracker 4. I am writing to see if you can send me a copy of your new HUD for Poker Tracker 4. I attached a copy of the invoice. Also, in the recent podcast, you talk about a way to import hand histories from Bovada into Poker Tracker 4. Can you go over for me how to do that? I appreciate your help and hope you have great success in your poker and personal goals for the coming future. Kong Lee. Well, thank you so much for the support, Kong, and I appreciate the email as well. And yep, I'm sure you got tons of crap from other kids about your name like I did while growing up, you know. Sky and Kong, there's so many ways for kids to make fun of those names. And my last name, Matsuhashi, yeah, they made fun of that one as well. So I've already sent Kong all of my HUDs, so I hope he's getting some good use out of them. And if you've got any questions about my HUD, Kong, or anybody else, please send them on in. I'd love to talk about it with you. And regarding importing hands from Bovada, there's a simple-to-use hand history or hand converter from a company called Ace Poker Solutions. I haven't used it yet, though. You know, as I'm not on Bovada, but I know it works from hearing about it from Bovada Pros. And for anyone who wants to get the Bovada hand converter, either as a free trial or to purchase it, just head to smartpokerstudy.com/Ace Poker Solutions. That's one word, /Ace Poker Solutions. This is my affiliate page for the company that created the converter. Just click the link, download the free trial, and give it a spin. It'll show you exactly how to convert those hands into Poker Tracker 4 or even Hold'em Manager readable hands. So awesome. Thanks again for that question, Kong. Okay, and here's question 3. Oh, it's another semi-Bovada related question from Mr. Happiness. He says, thanks, Sky. I really appreciate your getting in touch with me. I would like to get some help with online small stakes post-flop poker. On Bovada, you can't get a large HUD sample size on anyone. I can generally get a pretty good idea of pre-flop VPIP and PFR, which is voluntary put money in the pot and pre-flop raise, after 2 or 3 orbits. But on C-bet and fold to C-bet and steal or fold to steal stats, I never really get enough data. I'm a small winner as of now at 25 NL, which is 10 cent, 25 cent. What is your suggestion? Thanks, Mr. Happiness. Alrighty, well, thank you for the question, Mr. Happiness. It's totally difficult to figure out stats when you're playing versus unknowns and when you're playing on a site that doesn't really record the stats for you over different sessions, you know. When you have lots of hands on somebody with some good ideas on how you can exploit them, you can play more speculative hands and you can be in more quote-unquote dangerous spots, you know. A limited number of hands, though, means you need to play with more of an emphasis on population tendencies. Like, how do most players defend their blinds at 10 or 25 NL? Or how often does the general crowd at 25 NL try to steal with their weak hands or with their strong hands or with any hands in the positions, you know? I think by doing lots of hand history reviews after the fact, with emphasis on specific spots, as in stealing and c-betting, you'll be able to learn what the population tendencies are. Then you can base your play, because you don't know the particular player so well. You can base your plays and decisions on what the population does as a whole. So when you start a session on Bovada, I'd recommend starting your session with 1 or 2 tables. Watch every hand for 2 orbits at least and get a feel for each player. Mark him as a player type if you can, like lag or loose aggressive, tight aggressive, loose passive, tight passive. Maybe he's a donk, he's a fish, he's a reg, he's a pro. Whatever tag you want to give him to help you play against him, assign each player that tag. Pay attention to who's limping, who's raising, who's 3-betting, who's opening from the cutoff, the button, the small blind a lot, because these are the steal positions, of course. Pay attention also to who c-bets, whether it's in position or out of position, who check raises a lot on the flop, or who donk leads the flop. who folds a lot to c-bets, take notes on a piece of paper in front of you or within your HUD software, whatever works for you. Once you have a feel for the players at your table, then add more tables if you're so inclined. If you only want to play 2, great. Stick with 2 and learn those opponents, their tendencies inside and out to be able to extract value from them. And the notes that you take on opponents along with the player tag you give them will help you in exploiting those tendencies. And when it comes to stealing, your pre-flop raise number, or the number that your opponent has, his pre-flop raise number, should really help here, as the more often he raises, the more likely he's a stealer as well, especially, in the cutoff button and small blind positions. Just go by that to judge how likely your opponent is on a steal. And you can look at his overall VPIP, his voluntarily put money into the pot, to see how often he plays hands. If he has a really high VPIP, like 40, even like 30 or more, but especially 40, 50, 60% VPIP, these guys play a ton of hands and they're going to be totally willing to call your steals quite more than your average player, So in both instances, when you're up against unknowns, you're better off erring on the side of tightness and don't call too wide and don't steal too wide either if you're really not sure how they'll respond to it. And when it comes to c-betting and folding to c-bets, try to gain a general sense of the population's tendencies here as well. This will really help you out. But err on the side of caution and don't c-bet bluff too often when out of position. Be aware of board texture, and if the flop hits him hard, don't c-bet at all. He's an unknown, you don't know how he'll react, just don't do it. If it misses your range completely, don't c-bet. You could, if you're out of position, go ahead and check raise because that is a scary play. If you're unknown to him, because he is unknown to you, you're probably pretty unknown to him, your check raise will look really scary, And if you've got a great draw on the flop with lots of outs, go ahead and c-bet, or if you have a valuable hand, c-bet as well, if you're going for value. You won't know how often he's likely to fold or c-bet himself, so you'll have to take into account board texture, position, and ranges more so than any stats that you might have on the opponent. So, you really want to look situationally when it comes to c-betting and folding to c-bets. And one thing to remember as well is pre-flop tendencies often flow over into post-flop play. Not always, but quite often. If a player is super loose and calls a lot pre to see the flop, he'll be more likely to call you down with a marginal hand on every single street. This isn't always the case, but it's a very safe assumption at the micro stakes until an opponent shows you differently. Same thing with pre-flop aggression. It tends to bleed over into their post-flop game as well. So very aggressive guys on the flop who are trying to push you off with 3 bets or just, big raises like to 5 or 6 BBs. Those are the same guys that are going to be betting pot or raising you on the flop or turn to get you to fold, Alrighty, thanks again for that question, Mr. Happiness. And question number 4 right here. This is a question about a live game from Steve. And Steve actually sent in a question last week as well. So I'm glad to help you out here again, Steve. He says, hello, here is one you might be able to answer and advise. I'm in a $1, $2 no-limit table at Foxwoods. I'm in the big blind, 3 limpers before me. I look down and I have pocket aces. I raise in the big blind to $18, 2 folds and 1 caller. The flop is 10, 9, deuce, rainbow. So you flop the over pair there. I c-bet the flop to $20. Yes, it's a bit lower than half pot. I get raised to 45. What would you put the player on? I put him on aces, kings, queens, ace-king, or ace-queen. I did not put him on 10-9. I know I didn't make a good read on the hand, but would you have put him on 10-9? Steve. Alrighty, well, thank you very much for the question, Steve. I wouldn't necessarily put him on 10-9 here, but that large raise tells me he's not scared of you at all. And I say large raise, he just raised you a little bit more than the min raise, but the fact that he limped and then called, this is a lot more aggression than he's shown so far in the pot. And his play could be consistent, this raise here, could be consistent with pocket 10s, pocket 9s, or deuces for a flopped set, or even 10-9, or even some other top pair hand, like king 10 might play like this, if he's a pretty aggressive player. And even an open-ender like queen jack flopping that open-ender straight on a pretty dry board, not super dry, but semi-dry board, 10-9 deuce, he could be doing that as well, but it just depends on what type of player he is and what he's capable of. Remember that he limped and called you in position, and this is something that you often see in live cash games. He only needed 39% equity to make the call, and that's calculated as the $16 call divided by the full pot with his call of $41. So 16 divided by 41 means he only needed 39% equity. Depending on your range to raise from the big blind, he might think he had a decent chance with 10-9. It's not a great hand, but you didn't mention if it was suited or not, but a suited 10-9 does play pretty well, especially in position against a lot of players. And he would have called also with those same pocket pairs that I just mentioned besides that 10-9. My question to you is, have you ever seen this player make raises like this as a bluff? Is he capable of raising your c-bet on a draw, with top pair and overpair, or as a bluff? All the hands you put him on, the aces, kings, queens, ace, king, ace, queen, I don't think he'd have any of those really given his pre-flop play. Not too often will you see ace queen or better and pocket queens or better just limp and then call. But if you've seen him do this before, that's another thing entirely. Then it's possibly in his range. And ranging opponents is all about what cards you've seen them play in the past, how they've played different hands previously, and the actions they've taken so far in the current hand. It's a tough thing to practice, but the more you do so, the better off you'll be. Pay attention to every hand that gets shown down, and you can even make a note in Evernote to help you remember while you're at the table. Keeping track of the hands they've shown down and how they played those hands will help you judge their ranges in the future. Okay, this final question number 5, comes from Dennis. He asks, when you're studying a concept as in-depth as hand reading, and more specifically doing a course like the hand reading lab from Split Suit, do you think it's best to give it 100% of your study time and attention? Should we leave other concepts to the side for a while so we don't overload our poker brain? Will this possibly help with the learning curve? Dennis. Alrighty, thank you very much, Dennis. And that's a great question, and yes, absolutely, you should concentrate on one topic at a time. Keep in mind the idea of mastery versus overload. Get really good at one topic before moving on to the next. I think you'll learn more from focusing a full 5 hours of study and 10 hours of playing time in a given week to one topic than it is to divide that up between 2 or more topics. Also, if you plan your studies, you can choose skills that build upon each other. For example, you can start with studying open ranges, then move to 3-bet ranges. Follow that up with flop play, like c-betting, then fold to c-bet, then move on to the turn. Then you can get into ranging, then sometime after that get into bet sizing. You can also do it with software, in regards to software, you can also learn gradually and learn step by step, like start off with Equilab, learn that inside and out, then move on to Flopzilla, then follow that up with Card Runner's EV. Whatever you're studying, you should be taking it from one topic to the next with each topic building upon what was learned previously. So good luck with that, Dennis. Challenge! Here's my challenge to you for this episode. Plan your studies for next week. Choose one topic, the one that you think your game will benefit from the most, and devote the entire week to that one thing. How to study it is totally up to you, but stick with the one and study it until you know it inside and out. Don't move on until you do. Now it's your turn to take action and do something positive for your poker game.
Now get it on.
Thank you so much for listening today, and thanks again to Lisa, Kong, Mr. Happiness, Steve, and Dennis for sending me those questions. If you're not already there, head over to the show notes page for everything discussed today at smartpokerstudy.com/pod46. And while you're there, sign up for the smartpokerstudy.com newsletter and get the Ultimate Poker Resource Guide for free. Hit me with any feedback through the show notes, or you can send an email to sky@smartpokerstudy.com. Tweet me at smartpokerstudy, or post in the Facebook group at smartpokerstudy.com/discuss. And please send me your questions, your leaks, or ideas for podcast topics through all the channels just mentioned. And a quick iTunes review. This one comes in from Chris. He titles it, "Give a fish, or teach them to fish?" 5 stars. I've played poker years ago, often and quite poorly. I have a newfound interest in learning about the game. Sky does a great job with this podcast. He has a teaching background and it shows. He is clear, foreshadows information in each episode, he recaps it, and he gives you homework and next steps. This is primarily a learning podcast and secondarily a tips, tricks, strategy podcast. If you want to know 3 tricks at a surface level, this isn't the show for you. That said, I love it for its methodology. Rather than spoon-feeding you, he explains the why. He tells you how to best utilize your study/homework time. Alrighty, well, thank you so much for that review, Chris. I really appreciate it. Sounds like you're getting some good information from the podcast here. And I love it when people say nice things. So if you want to let me know how you feel about this podcast, please leave an iTunes review. Alrighty, poker people, be sure to come back for the next episode, number 47, where I finally get to Dom's Poker League of difficulty in late-stage MTT play with a little help from Alex Fitzgerald. Word of mouth is the best advertising, and a recommendation from you to your friends would be most appreciated. If you enjoyed our time together and learned a little something, please share it with that one-hit wonder from the 90s, Right Said Fred. Man, I loved that song when it first came out. Until next time, study smart, play much, and make your next session the best one yet.
I'm